Well, that's why I always say that my videos are not a path to just start pirating everything. The point of my piracy videos are not to say all piracy is okay all the time. The point of my piracy video is to point out that the notion that piracy is stealing is basically an effect of a propaganda campaign. It is incredibly short-sighted to say that all piracy all the time is bad and all piracy all the time is stealing. It's not defined as stealing by either the dictionary or by law, and to examine whether or not it's bad, we have to examine the effect it has. And to examine that effect, you need to educate yourself. You need to know where the money goes when you buy a game. This includes a AAA game, a AA game, an old game, a game remake, an indie game, and so on. And they all go to different areas in different ways. You need to consider who you're hurting, if anyone. And are those people that you're hurting other people? You need to consider what effect that you're having on the economy, specifically the game industry's economy. And I mean, really, you have to follow the money trail. You can't just say, oh, it's negative. You have to actually examine the effects of these things. You can't just say that it's bad because it's breaking a law, because some laws are unjust. You need to examine the law. You need to think about the law. We need to question whether or not the laws need to change. We need to ask ourselves, what does changing the law do? How does it help? How does it hurt? Copyright law and how it pertains to piracy and emulation is a deep, nuanced, and complex subject. And it's one that game academics are fiercely debating right now. And none of these people who spend their entire lives analyzing and studying the game industry and the economics therein are making the argument piracy is always stealing and piracy is always bad. The real world is more complex than that. It's shades of gray. It's not black and white. And the big problem with this piracy is always bad opinion is that it doesn't actually consider effects. It assumes effects. That means that a lot of these fiercely anti-piracy people sometimes partake in behaviors that still harm developers. Like used game sales and giving games away also denies a sale to developers if that's your logic. And returning a game, either on a digital platform or as a hard copy, hurts developers even worse. But these things are legal, and so these people aren't actually examining what effect they have. One of the major points of my channel has always been to educate people about how the game industry works, how to show people what's happening behind the curtain of outward appearance. And I don't actually think everyone should just go out and have a pirating spree. But I do think that a discussion about copyright law is long overdue and is definitely needed. Because our current copyright laws and our current attitudes toward piracy and emulation are hurting game developers and hurting consumers. And if you don't start examining these things, then you're going to keep the status quo, and the status quo is not always good. That was a bit of a rant, but for the record, don't pirate indie games. I can tell you that that does have a negative effect.